Hi all, I'm Sionna, and in this video I'm going to be talking to you about embroidery. But why is embroidering something that you might be interested in? Well, I found it to be a relaxing craft and something that I can do while I'm watching TV or listening to an audiobook. And most commonly I've noticed the finished product of a hand embroidery will go onto the wall. You know, those home sweet home sayings that are always up in your grandma's house, or at least in my grandma's house. So that's why when I think embroidery, I always think home sweet home. But that's really not the only thing you can do with it. Of course, like back in historical times, you can also embroider your clothing. Another interesting thing that I seem to see a lot recently is people making them into ornaments. Okay, so let's get started with the basics. First off, what do you need to do this? So first and foremost, you will need fabric. Like this one here. This is a linen, and I've heard it's good. But it's been working for me. And that's what you will be applying the design to, but it doesn't have to be cut fabric like that. You can also use canvas totes. You could do it directly on clothing. I've also seen someone do embroidery on their cell phone case, which I'm guessing is a rubber or plastic. Another thing that you might be familiar with when it comes to embroideries are your basic embroidery hoops. So this one is about 3 inches and this one is 6, and they come in a variety of sizes. It all comes down to what you are doing and what is a better fit for you, and tension, making sure that your fabric gets as tight as you need it to be. Then of course there is your threads. These usually come in 6 strands. This one's easier to show. So this here, this little thread here, is 6 strands that you might not use all at once. A lot of people, when they're using their threads, will bring it down to 3. That seems to be common for what I've seen, 3 or 4. But you could just use 1 if you want a very thin look to what you're doing. So just this little strand here actually can go a pretty far way. And then of course you will need needles. So once you have all your tools ready to go, then you need to work on or figure out what design or pattern that you're going to be doing. And how to get that onto the fabric. So there are a few ways to do this, but I'm going to be focusing on 2 different ways that focus on directly putting the pattern onto the fabric. To apply your design directly to the fabric, I would suggest either a pencil or a washable pen. This way you don't have to completely cover the design on the fabric and it can be washed off. Especially if you end up tweaking something as you go and decide you don't like it exactly how you have down, whatever. So what do? First off, freehand it. Some people are super creative, artistic, or just kind of know what you want to do. I mean, if you're just writing hello, then you can usually get that going. The other way is to trace it. So for example, I have these, and what I did was I taped this paper with my design onto a window that got a lot of sun, and then taped the fabric on top of it, so the sun coming through the window put the design onto the fabric, and then I traced it. If you're looking for pattern ideas to use, I suggest going to dmc.com. They are a company that really puts out like the kits and the threads, and they have a lot of free patterns online. They even have patterns for friendship bracelets if you're looking for new ideas on those. Alright, so we've gone over what embroidery is, we've gone over why we should do it, I've shown you some of the tools and how to get the pattern onto the fabric. Now it's time to actually show how to embroider. Please don't be intimidated, really, it's not so bad. I'm only going to be showing you about 3 or 4 stitches since that's all I know. It's been less than a month since before recording this video that I learned how to embroider, and here are my first designs. If you remember me just showing up my patterns before, this was the first one I did, and I really played around with what the stitches would look like, and I realized I do not like making stars. They're a little too complicated for me. But I really like making cacti, and I really enjoyed making this top one, even if it was a little bit more time consuming than the one on the bottom. And again, just these, I only knew 3 or 4 stitches, and maybe not the bottom one because I was playing around, but the top one for sure is something that I'm really considering throwing up on my wall or the fridge because it's cute and I like it. So again, I'm going to be showing you the basics, at least enough that you can recreate something like this. And I mean, there are so many stitch types out there. Today I'm going to be showing you the running stitch, back stitch, cross stitch, and the satin stitch. Alright, so now to get started. What you do first is you loosen up the screw here so you can pop out the middle, or the inside part, and then you're going to put this piece underneath your fabric and put the top piece on top, and slowly push it on. Push, 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 and you really want to get a good tension to the fabric. So we're gonna screw this back tightly, and if I can do it the right way, and then before it gets too tight, you just want to make sure you're pulling the fabric a little bit to get that nice tension. And that's just going to ensure that your piece looks the way that it's supposed to look. This part is set up. Next, you need to thread your needle, and the thread has to go through there. We're gonna just put that right there for a second because the thread. So I cut this piece off. This is 6 strands of embroidery floss, but I'm going to use 3. So you're just going to take the floss and look at the individual strands until you count 3, 1, 2, 3, and then pull them apart. Okay, so now I have my 3 strands. Now comes the hard part of threading the needle. Now you can either do it like this, how I am, which can take forever unless you get lucky. Oh my gosh, I got lucky. Or sometimes it helps if you make a little loop and try to push your thread in as a loop, or wetting down the tips or using wax just to make them into more of a finer point to get it through the hole. We have our fabric. This is linen. We have a threaded needle, And this is where it becomes to where to start. And I am going to be showing you some basic stitches. Like I said before, you can just draw on your design that you want. But as I'm just doing stitches, I'm just going to be drawing some straight lines. So there is my quote-unquote pattern. So now there is the question here of how do you keep the thread from going all the way through, and you can either put a knot on the bottom here, which will probably be easiest, so I'll just do a simple knot, or you can anchor it, which is what I tend to do. It's just what I'm used to with some of the other crafts I do, which is as I'm going, I make sure that on the back side I go over whatever tail I have left over. That way it stays in place. But the knot I just made at the end should help. Okay, so this is a running stitch. So you're just going to poke the needle in from the back, and it does take time, and it isn't super noticeable about where your needle is in the back. So you might see as I'm going that you can kind of see where I'm putting it. I'm going in, I should show it this way, I'm going like this, so I'm not poking it down, I'm poking it from the side. That way I can see the indentation on the front of where my needle is. That's what helps me at least figure out where the needle is, because sometimes I'm trying to get here, but my needle is all over here and I didn't realize it. Okay, so back to the running stitch. You're going to poke your needle up through the back, pull it through, and remember to be careful of your tail, the knot, tugging it, and it's fine there. So your knot will work. With less than 3 strands, perhaps not. So here's my thread coming through, and you're just going to poke in again, and your length doesn't matter too much. It really depends on the pattern and the look. I usually go for about that much. And just bring it back through. You're not giving it a huge tug, just enough that you feel some resistance. A little boop, boop, boop. That's all. Okay. Then you're going to give it some space. You don't want to go back through the same hole. Just space, and because we're following that line, poke back up, tug till there's resistance, back through. And so, as you can see, the running stitch here really gives you a dotted line look, or a dotted outline. So that right there is a running stitch. What we're doing now for our second line, this will be a back stitch. So again, we are going to go in through the back, and much like how you start the running stitch, you're going to go forward, but as you may have guessed, with this being called a back stitch, this time when you poke forward your next bit, you are now going to go into that same hole you created before. And like that. Okay, so let's see. That's pretty big, but oh well. and then the same hole. There. So I like the back stitch because it gives me a really good outline, which I prefer with my looks. I also use this one a lot for embroidering letters. So if you remember my example before, the pretty fly for a cacti, that one I did entirely as the back stitch. Well, I shouldn't say entirely. I did it 99% back stitch. A few I did as a running stitch, like the bottom of the letters. That just made things easier for me. Helped me save some thread. Okay. So that is the difference between, again, a running stitch and a back stitch. Next we're going to do a cross stitch. Cross stitch is an X. So no matter how you make an X across, that's the cross stitch. So let me show you a few different ways to do this. So remember, we're making an X. So you put that down as a diagonal, and then you come back up in line with the top one. I want right there. And go back down in line with those. And you make a little X. So no matter, so up, down, at a diagonal, and then come back through, up, down, at an opposite diagonal. If you're gonna go a longer distance, or if you're doing a letter, cross stitching also works for letters. That's how I did some of the letters for You Got This. You can do it diagonals all the way across. So yeah, I've done these for letters. I also did these as part of the spikes on Pretty Fly for a Cacti. These will give you a real pixelated look. So you can also map out your design on like an Excel sheet and see exactly what you want if you play it with squares. We'll do one more and then we'll go back. Okay, so line of diagonals that are not perfect, and then diagonals back. Those are some very small X's, so it's kind of hard to see them. If I was to do them, I'll do a really big one, just so that we know what I'm doing. But again, diagonal, and then like this. Seriously, it's just an X. Okay, so I did a few more X's closer to my face so that I can make them straighter and really show you that you get a cleaner look with them. Down here I set up a outline for our last stitch, and this one is a satin stitch. Again, the outline I made with the back stitch, and you really don't have to outline. I have just done it to highlight where I'm going. I also think it helps create cleaner edges because the satin stitch is all about filling in spaces. So this is going to use a lot of your thread. Again, you're going pretty much from this side to this side. So, not the right spot. Go here, just poke up, but I want to be on this side of my outline. So, positives and negatives to outline. With the thread down there like that, I have to be careful that I'm getting on the same side that I want to be. So, I like going underneath so that my entrances and exits are covered, but you can also go over the top, and that could give you more definition, or it could make it pop out off the fabric more, which could be really cool. Okay, so again, pull the thread through, and then go to the edge of your square, directly across, and pull down. Okay, and that looks pretty seamless. Tug, okay. Then go down just a wee bit more. Pop up and go back over. And that time I left some space so that I can go back in between and then back up. And down. Okay, so you've been seeing me enter and exit on the same sides, but you don't really have to do it that way. To save thread, you can just go up on the same side, or I guess the opposite side. Just go up. There we go. And then back over. And you do this until the space that you're making is completely full. So the satin stitch, as I said, is really good for filling in spaces. So I have done this for words and other objects. So my cactus. The way I did the cacti on the Pretty Fly for Cacti in my example was I outlined them using one thread. That way it's not too noticeable that I used an outline. And then I used 3 strands and did a satin stitch all the way. Okay, so, and bam. So at the end, you have a solid, well, you won't always have a solid square. You have a shaded in colored object of your choice. Okay, so again, from the top, this is the running stitch, the one where you'll have spaces in between. The back stitch, which is really good for outlining, where you pull up and go backwards. Then we have the cross stitch, which is making crosses or X's all the way across. And your satin stitch is what you're going to use for filling things in. But now you're done. Say you're done, because there's nothing more. This is perfect. Oh my gosh, I'm going to give this as a gift. Not really. But you have to finish off. Or say you're not done, but you don't have enough thread to continue. what do? Well, you flip it over. You have your thread. You want to secure it, and I like knotting it just to make sure that nothing is going to come out. So I secure it by putting it under the thread I already have, just under, maybe I'll do it under those this time, like that. To me, that is pretty secure. And then you make a knot. So I have my knots, it is secure. Take your needle off, but be oh so careful about where you put it. Remember what they say about finding a needle in a haystack. Needle is secure. And then you're going to take your scissors or cutting instrument and just, you don't want to get right next to the knot. Give it some space. A little snippy snip there. And that's completed. And this is free. And then to take it off, again, you're just gonna loosen it up. Loosen, 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 and pull off the top. And there it is. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed watching this video and learned something new. Feel free to email us, let us know how it went for you, and if you will keep doing it. I'd love to see pictures of anything that you end up making. All right, enjoy, bye!